Before you skip this video, let me ask you a question. Have you ever prayed for something so long that you started wondering if God had forgotten you? Maybe you've been waiting for healing. Waiting for a breakthrough. Waiting for a job. Waiting for a relationship to be restored. Waiting for your family situation to change. Waiting for an answer from God. And if you're honest, you're tired. You've prayed. You've trusted. You've waited. But nothing seems to be happening. If that's you, stay with me. Because today's message could completely change the way you see your waiting season. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why waiting on God is always worth it. Nobody likes waiting. We want answers immediately. We want results right now. We want the blessing today. We live in a world where everything is instant. Instant messages. Instant entertainment. Instant delivery. But God rarely works instantly. Why? Because God is more interested in preparing you than simply giving you what you want. Many people want the blessing. But very few people want the preparation. Many people want the promise. But very few people want the process. Yet the process is where God does some of His greatest work. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that silence means God isn't working. But think about a seed. When a farmer plants a seed, nothing seems to happen at first. The ground looks exactly the same. Day after day. Week after week. Nothing visible. But underneath the surface, something incredible is happening. Roots are growing. Life is developing. Preparation is taking place. And eventually, what was invisible becomes visible. Your life is often the same way. Just because you don't see progress doesn't mean God isn't working. Just because you don't see answers doesn't mean God isn't listening. God may be doing His greatest work beneath the surface. Think about Joseph in the Bible. God gave Joseph a dream. A beautiful promise. A vision for his future. But what happened next? Did the promise happen immediately? No. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers. Sold into slavery. Falsely accused. Thrown into prison. Years passed. Imagine how Joseph must have felt. Confused. Disappointed. Frustrated. Maybe even forgotten. Yet every difficult season was preparing him for the position God had planned. Had God forgotten Joseph? No. God was preparing Joseph for something bigger than he could imagine. And maybe that's exactly what God is doing in your life right now. Anybody can trust God when everything is going well. But real faith is built while waiting. Real faith grows when you don't have all the answers. Real faith develops when circumstances don't make sense. Because waiting forces us to decide. Will we trust God only when we understand? Or will we trust Him even when we don't? The strongest believers are not people who never faced delays. They are people who kept trusting during the delay. Here's something many people never consider. What if the thing why? What if the thing you're calling a delay is actually protection? What if God sees something you don't? What if the opportunity you wanted would have hurt you? What if the relationship you wanted wasn't right? What if the timing you wanted would have created problems you couldn't see? God sees the whole picture. You only see a small part of it. That's why God's timing is always better than our timing. Waiting teaches patience. Waiting teaches trust. Waiting teaches dependence on God. Waiting teaches humility. Waiting teaches gratitude. And most importantly, waiting teaches us that God Himself is enough. Because sometimes God allows us to wait not to punish us, but to bring us closer to Him. And that relationship becomes more valuable than the blessing itself. If you've been waiting on God for something important, comment. I'm still trusting. Not because everything is perfect. But because you're choosing faith over fear. Now let's talk about 7 reasons God may allow us to wait. Reason number 1. God is preparing you. Most people focus on what they're waiting for. But God often focuses on who they're becoming. Because the blessing you're praying for may require a stronger version of you. More wisdom. More patience. More faith. More maturity. And those things are developed in the waiting. Reason number 2. God is teaching you to trust Him. It's easy to trust God when prayers are answered immediately. But what happens when weeks become months? When months become years? That's where faith grows. Faith isn't trusting God after you receive the answer. Faith is trusting Him before the answer arrives. Reason number 3. God sees what you cannot see. Imagine reading only one page of a book. You wouldn't understand the entire story. But God sees every page. Every chapter. Every ending. He sees dangers you don't see. Mistakes you don't see. Problems you don't see. And because He loves you, He sometimes says, "Not yet." Reason number 4. God's timing is perfect. Some blessings arrive too early and become burdens. That's why God waits for the perfect moment. The moment when you're ready. The moment when circumstances are ready. The moment when His plan comes together. Reason number 5. God wants to strengthen your relationship with Him. Many people seek God's hand. But God wants them to seek His heart. Sometimes God allows waiting because waiting causes us to pray more. Trust more. Depend on Him more. And spend more time in His presence. Reason number 6. Your testimony is being written. Imagine if Joseph quit in prison. Imagine if David gave up before becoming king. Imagine if Abraham stopped believing. Their stories inspire millions today because they kept trusting during the waiting season. And one day, your story may encourage someone else. Reason number 7. The blessing will be worth the wait. Think about all the prayers God has already answered in your life. At one time, those blessings were things you were waiting for. And today you're thankful God didn't give up on you. The same will be true of what you're waiting for now. Let's be honest. Waiting is exhausting. Sometimes you pray and feel nothing. Sometimes you wonder if anyone is listening. Sometimes you question yourself. And sometimes you question God. If that's where you are today, listen carefully. God is not angry with your questions. God understands your pain. He understands your frustration. He understands your tears. And even when you feel weak, He remains faithful. Take a moment and think back. Remember that situation you thought would destroy you? You survived. Remember that prayer you thought would never be answered? God answered it. Remember that season you thought would never end? It ended. The same God who carried you then will carry you now. You are not facing this waiting season alone. So if you're waiting right now, don't quit. Don't stop praying. Don't stop believing. And don't let the delay convince you that God has forgotten you. Because God is still working. Even when you can't see it. Even when you don't understand it. Even when nothing seems to be changing. Your waiting season has a purpose. Your story is still being written. And one day you'll look back and realize something amazing. God's timing was better than your timing. And everything He asked you to wait for was worth the wait. Comment, "I'm still trusting," if you're choosing to trust God's timing today. Subscribe for daily Christian encouragement, prayers, and messages that strengthen your faith.